Imagine this. You pray. You hold on to hope with every fiber of your being. You've even seen glimpses of God's goodness, witnessed His hand moving in your life in small, precious ways. Yet deep down, a question, sometimes a whisper, sometimes a persistent ache lingers. Why do some blessings seem to elude you, or arrive so slowly, like drops in a vast, parched desert? Is it your faith that falters, your dedication that wavers? This isn't just about wishing for more. It's about understanding the divine architecture of abundance, a structure many of us, despite our earnest efforts, haven't quite fully grasped. Many of us, in our most vulnerable moments of honest reflection, quietly wonder if we're somehow unworthy of greater blessings, or if our prayers just aren't good enough or loud enough to pierce through the noise of the world. But let me tell you, friend, that narrative couldn't be further from the truth, further from the very heart of our Creator. The Scriptures paint a vivid, undeniable picture of a God who delights in blessing His children, whose compassion never fails, whose love is an ocean without end. Psalm 103, for instance, beautifully reminds us, "The Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love." And again in Psalm 145, "The Lord is good to all, He has compassion on all He has made." So if His very nature is pure, boundless generosity, if His will is for us to flourish, then what's truly happening when our experience doesn't seem to match this glorious, divine promise? The question shifts from, will God bless me, to, am I truly positioned to receive and more profoundly to see those blessings multiply? The truth is, God's desire to pour out blessings is constant, unwavering, like a mighty river always flowing with life-giving water. The challenge, then, often isn't with the river itself, but with our capacity to receive and, crucially, to multiply what flows our way. We might be standing by the riverbank with a small cup, yearning for a trickle, when He intends for us to open our hands wide, to build a vast reservoir capable of holding an ocean of His goodness. This isn't some obscure spiritual loophole or a secret code reserved for a select few. It's about aligning ourselves with fundamental, timeless spiritual laws, principles so ancient they are woven into the very fabric of creation, whispered through the profound wisdom of the Psalms, and illuminated in the life of every prophet and saint who walked in close communion with the Most High. These are not new doctrines, but rediscovered pathways to an old, yet ever-present reality. We often talk about receiving blessings, and that, my friend, is a wonderful thing, a testament to God's grace. But what if there's a higher level, a divine mechanism designed not just for initial reception, but for multiplication? Imagine for a moment not just getting a miracle, a single intervention, but witnessing a breathtaking cascade of miracles, one leading to another, each blessing opening the door for even greater manifestations of God's grace in every area of your life. This isn't mere wishful thinking or hyperbole. This is the audacious promise embedded in God's unchanging character and in His loving, expansive design for our lives. Psalm 115:14 declares with power, "May the Lord cause you to flourish, both you and your children." This is a God of increase, a God of overflowing, a God whose very essence is to expand and to provide beyond what we can ask or even imagine. He doesn't just want to meet your needs. He wants to fill you to overflowing so that you can also become a channel of His blessing to others. In the journey we are about to embark upon, we will unlock 3 such keys. These are not complex theological puzzles or esoteric practices, but simple, yet profoundly powerful actions that will recalibrate your spiritual antenna, shifting its focus and its reception. They will move you from merely hoping for blessings to actively cultivating an environment where miracles multiply exponentially, where every seed of faith you plant yields an abundant harvest. Think of them as fundamental spiritual disciplines, accessible to anyone with a heart willing to seek God's face and a spirit ready to receive His transformative power. They are practical steps grounded in ancient wisdom, designed for modern lives. These keys, when truly understood and faithfully applied, promise a transformation so profound, so complete, that it will redefine your very understanding of divine provision and the active role you play in its manifestation. Each step builds organically upon the last, creating an unbreakable synergistic circuit of faith and favor, drawing you deeper into the heart of God's design for your prosperity. And the final key, the third step we will explore, is particularly potent. It's an ancient wisdom, often underestimated, sometimes even overlooked in our fast-paced world, that holds the power to utterly reverse seasons of perceived lack, turning them into a powerful, living testimony of God's limitless bounty and His unwavering faithfulness. Do not miss it. It is the linchpin, the pivotal point, that elevates mere reception to a realm of abundant, continuous multiplication. Stay with me because your life, I assure you, is on the precipice of an astonishing new chapter. A chapter filled with multiplied miracles and blessings beyond your wildest dreams. Now that we understand the grandeur of what God has in store, that He yearns for a relationship of multiplication with us, it is time to delve into the first key, that fundamental first step which opens the floodgates of heaven so that these miracles and blessings not only arrive, but multiply in our lives. This step, my friend, is crying out to the Lord. But do not think we are talking about just any prayer, that hasty list of requests we make before bed or between tasks. No. Here, crying out takes on a depth and purpose that we often neglect, lost in the superficiality of our days. When we speak of crying out, we are referring to a cry that is not always audible to human ears, but one that resonates in the hidden depths of the soul, echoing into eternity. It is the pouring out of a heart that completely surrenders before the Creator, an expression of total dependence, a vulnerable surrender of someone who recognizes they can no longer proceed alone. Do you remember the psalmist's cry in Psalm 42:7? Deep calls to deep. That is precisely the image, the abyss of our need, of our profound thirst, crying out to the abyss of God's infinite provision and mercy. It is not about what you ask, but about the intensity of your being as you connect with Him. It is the difference between a child reciting a poem and a child who, lost, screams for their mother with all their might, with all the desperation and all the hope that reside in their small heart. Which of these calls do you think moves attention and the heart more? Often our prayer becomes a formality, a repetitive ritual that neither touches the depths of our spirit nor reaches the heights of the throne of grace with the same passion. But genuine crying out, that which springs from the soul, is different. It does not care about the eloquence of words, the structure of the phrase, or the duration of the prayer. It cares about the sincerity of the intention, about the raw and undeniable truth of our being. It is the language of a heart that can no longer contain its pain, its hope, its faith, and pours itself out without reservation. Think of that moment when the problem is so vast that words fail, and all that remains is a groan, a deep sigh, an unspeakable longing. That is when true crying out happens, transcending the limits of human language and speaking directly to the Spirit. In Psalm 18:6, King David testifies, "In my distress I called to the Lord. I cried to my God for help. From His temple He heard my voice. My cry came before Him into His ears." What moves God is not the volume of our voice, but the depth of our soul. Yet crying out is not merely a plea for help or an expression of desperation. It is, first and foremost, an act of internal preparation. When we truly cry out, we are not simply informing God about our situation, as if He were unaware. That would be a limited understanding of His omniscience. Instead, we are preparing ourselves. We are making space within our own being, in our mind and in our spirit, for divine intervention. It is like a farmer who not only prays for rain, but plows the land, prepares it, makes it fertile and receptive for the seeds and the water that will come. Crying out moves God's heart, yes, but it moves our own heart even more, aligning it with His will, softening it to receive what He has for us. It makes us a suitable vessel for multiplication. When we cry out, we are surrendering, recognizing that we are not self-sufficient and that our strength is limited. This surrender, this breaking of our ego and our self-reliance, is the fertile ground where miracles flourish and blessings multiply. It is in the valley of crying out that our perspective adjusts, where our spiritual ears become finely tuned, and our heart becomes more sensitive to the shepherd's voice. Without this preparation of genuine crying out, God's voice, even if it whispers beside us, can go unnoticed. It is the strength of this crying out, of this total surrender, that prepares us for the next phase. It empowers us to hear, to discern, and finally, to obey His voice, which is the second step on our journey of multiplication. Crying out, then, is not the end of prayer, but the beginning of a new form of dialogue, one that transforms not only the circumstance, but who we are. Having poured out our hearts, having laid bare our souls in that deep transformative cry to the Lord, we now arrive at a critical junction, a place where the divine dialogue truly takes shape. This is the second indispensable step on our journey to multiplied miracles and blessings, obeying His voice. Many have cried out, many have sincerely longed for intervention, but then, when the answer comes, when the gentle whisper of direction is given, it is often missed, dismissed, or simply not followed. This is where the true alignment, the perfect tuning of our spirit comes into play. It's not enough to speak to God. We must also learn to listen and, crucially, to act on what we hear. Think of it not as a burdensome command, but as an invitation to partnership, a divine choreography where our responsive steps lead to unparalleled breakthroughs. The challenge here lies in the very nature of God's voice. We often expect thunder, a booming pronouncement from the heavens, an undeniable sign that leaves no room for doubt. But as the prophet Elijah discovered, God is not always in the wind, nor the earthquake, nor the fire. He is often in the still small voice, the gentle whisper, 1 Kings 19:11-12. This quiet counsel, this subtle prompting, often comes in ways that defy our human expectations. An unexpected thought, a sudden conviction, a sense of peace about a particular path, or even a nudging to speak a kind word to a stranger. It is in these small signs that the grand design begins to unfold. Overlooking these seemingly insignificant directions is akin to ignoring the early blueprints of a magnificent cathedral. You might not see the whole structure yet, but each line, each instruction, is vital to its eventual construction. It is through our faithfulness to these small, often counterintuitive nudges that we pave the way for the grand miracles we seek. Consider the biblical narratives. Time and again, great deliverances and profound blessings began with a seemingly small, sometimes illogical instruction. Noah was told to build an ark on dry land. Abraham was asked to leave his homeland for an unknown destination. These were not grand pronouncements of instant glory, but directives that required a quiet, persistent obedience to what, to the human mind, might have seemed absurd. This obedience of small signs is where the process of multiplication truly begins. When we honor the little inspirations, the soft intuitions, the seemingly minor invitations to kindness or sacrifice, we are signaling to the divine architect that we are ready for more. We are proving ourselves faithful in little, thereby becoming qualified for much. As Psalm 119:105 beautifully states, "Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path." A lamp illuminates only the next step, not the entire journey, demanding continuous trust and responsiveness. This leads us to a deeper, more challenging aspect of obeying His voice, the counterintuitive obedience. The logic of the kingdom often stands in stark contrast to the logic of the world. What God asks us to do might go against our common sense, against popular opinion, or even against our ingrained fears and insecurities. Imagine being told to give away the little you have when you are in desperate need, or to forgive someone who has deeply wronged you when every fiber of your being screams for justice, or to wait patiently when every worldly impulse demands immediate action. These are moments where our human logic clashes with divine wisdom. Yet it is precisely in these moments of counterintuitive obedience that the greatest multiplication unfolds. This is because such obedience challenges the very foundations of our limited understanding, forcing us to lean entirely on God's infinite wisdom and power. It's not just about doing what we're told, it's about doing it even when we don't fully comprehend why, trusting that the caller knows the bigger picture, that His ways are higher than our ways. This isn't about blind obedience, but about trust born from an intimate relationship, forged in the fires of fervent crying out. It's about recognizing that God's plan is always grander, always more loving, always more abundant than anything we could conceive. When we step out in faith, performing that seemingly illogical act of obedience, we are entering a realm where natural laws are superseded by spiritual principles. This is where the loaves and fishes multiply, where barren wombs become fruitful, where dead men rise. It's not our strength or wisdom that achieves these miracles, but our willingness to act on a divine instruction that might appear foolish to the world. As Psalm 37:23 says, "The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him." Our delight in him, our trust in his guidance, makes our obedient steps firm, even when the path ahead is unclear. This counterintuitive obedience is a declaration of our absolute faith, a powerful magnet for accelerated blessings. This act, this commitment to align our actions with his gentle nudges, prepares us for the final and most extraordinary key in unlocking a life of multiplied miracles. Without this responsive action, even the most heartfelt clamor can feel incomplete, leaving us waiting rather than actively participating in the unfolding of God's magnificent plan. We've cried out with our souls laid bare, aligning our hearts with the divine rhythm. We've committed to listening and, more importantly, to obeying his gentle, often counterintuitive voice, understanding that the small steps of faith pave the way for monumental miracles. Now we arrive at the third and perhaps most profound key, a secret that many glimpse but few fully grasp: cultivating gratitude that multiplies the unexpected. This isn't merely about saying thank you after a blessing has arrived. It's a far more active, transformative force, a spiritual accelerator that takes what is and turns it into an overflowing abundance. It's the linchpin that connects earnest crying out and faithful obedience to a continuous, ever-expanding flow of divine favor. Think for a moment about the conventional understanding of gratitude. We are grateful for what we have received, for the good things that have already manifested in our lives. And that, of course, is right and proper. "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever," declares Psalm 107:1. This form of gratitude acknowledges God's past and present faithfulness. But what if there's a dimension of gratitude that operates differently? A power that doesn't just respond to what is, but actively draws in what is yet to be. This is the power of anticipatory gratitude, celebrating the miracle before it happens, offering thanks for blessings that are still on their way as if they were already in your hands. This isn't make-believe or wishful thinking. It is a profound act of faith, a powerful declaration that you believe in the unshakable promises of God more than the current evidence of your senses. When you thank God for healing even when the pain persists, for provision even when the cupboards are bare, for breakthrough even when the walls seem insurmountable, you are essentially sealing the promise, validating its reality in the spiritual realm. You are telling the universe, and more importantly, telling God, "I trust you implicitly. I believe your word is true, and I receive what you have promised, even now." This kind of gratitude isn't a reaction, it's an initiation. This deep act of anticipatory gratitude taps into a spiritual law that says what you focus on and give thanks for expands. It's like a spiritual magnet, actively pulling the desired outcome into your present reality. It is a powerful affirmation not just of hope but of absolute conviction. Psalm 28:7 says, "The Lord is my strength and my shield. In him my heart trusts, and I am helped. My heart exults, and with my song I give thanks to him." This isn't just about expressing joy after being helped, but an exultation in the trust that leads to help, a thanksgiving that precedes the physical manifestation. This is where faith becomes tangible, where your spirit connects directly with the heart of God, declaring his truth over your circumstances, regardless of how they currently appear. It transforms waiting into an active, joyful receiving. Beyond the grand anticipations, there's also the expansive effect of small gratitude, an often underestimated power. In our pursuit of multiplied miracles, we sometimes overlook the countless minute blessings that saturate our daily lives. We focus on what we lack, on the grand challenges, and in doing so, we blind ourselves to the immense abundance that surrounds us. But when you consciously train your heart to be grateful for the warmth of the sun, for a kind word, for the simple breath in your lungs, for a moment of peace, for the very ability to read these words, you activate a transformative lens. This isn't about ignoring problems, but about recalibrating your perception. You begin to see that you are not in scarcity, but already immersed in a sea of God's goodness. This magnified perception of countless small blessings broadens your capacity to receive, creating more space for greater ones. It shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present, generating a positive spiritual frequency that attracts more of the same. As Psalm 136 beautifully reiterates, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever." The simple act of noticing and appreciating these constant, enduring mercies opens up channels for even more to flow. Finally, this profound journey of gratitude requires a deliberate shift from lamentation to active praise, especially when faced with challenges. It's natural to lament, to feel the weight of difficulties. Yet the psalmist, in moments of deep distress, often turned his lament into praise, choosing to focus on God's character despite his circumstances. Psalm 30:11-12 declares, "You turned my wailing into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy, that my heart may sing your praises and not be silent. Lord my God, I will praise you forever." This isn't a denial of pain, but a conscious decision to anchor your spirit in the sovereignty of God over the pain. It's about understanding that even in the storm, God is good. This active choice to praise and give thanks, even for the tiny glimmers of hope or for the strength to endure, fundamentally changes your spiritual frequency. It's like changing the radio station from static to a clear, harmonious signal, enabling you to hear and receive more clearly. This unwavering gratitude, this continuous state of praise, despite what your eyes might tell you, is the ultimate testament to your faith. It is the spiritual discipline that not only secures existing blessings but propels you into a season of exponential multiplication, unlocking a level of divine provision you might never have thought possible. It is the vibrant, living testament to a heart fully trusting in God's limitless goodness. We have journeyed through the individual power of each of these profound keys. We learned to bare our souls, crying out with a vulnerability that pierces the heavens and prepares our innermost being. We then committed to the sacred art of listening, and crucially to obeying that still small voice, trusting in divine direction even when it defied our human logic. And most recently, we explored the revolutionary force of anticipatory gratitude, celebrating the miracle before it arrives, thus declaring our unwavering faith in God's unfailing promises. But now it is time to connect these powerful threads, to weave them into a tapestry of continuous, multiplied blessings. For these 3 steps, crying out, obeying his voice, and knowing how to give thanks, are not isolated acts. They are, in fact, an integrated dynamic cycle, a divine choreography designed to usher you into a life of supernatural abundance. Imagine a meticulously crafted ecosystem where each element sustains and enhances the others. The initial act of crying out, that earnest, heartfelt outpouring of your spirit, serves as the initial spark. It's the moment you actively engage the heart of God, signaling your readiness, your dependence, and your open need for his intervention. It's the deep well of desire and trust that first draws his attention and initiates the movement of his grace towards you. This is where the spiritual atmosphere around you shifts, where you transition from passively hoping to actively, desperately seeking. This cry, born from the very core of your being, isn't just a petition. It is a profound act of spiritual alignment, clearing the channels for what is to come. It's the honest admission that you need divine guidance, which then naturally leads to the next step. Once that cry has gone forth, once your heart has been laid bare and prepared, God begins to speak. This is where obedience enters the picture. His voice, perhaps a gentle nudge, an unexpected insight, or a clear instruction, comes as the precise direction for the blessing that is already en route. Without obedience, that initial cry, no matter how fervent, might find its blessing without a clear landing strip. Think of a complex satellite system. The cry is the signal sent, But obedience is the specific frequency and trajectory that allows the divine response to be received accurately and effectively. It is in the act of stepping out in faith, following those often small, sometimes counterintuitive commands, that you actively participate in the manifestation of your miracle. This isn't God demanding compliance for compliance's sake. It's a loving father guiding his child through a complex landscape, knowing precisely which turns to take for their ultimate good. Your obedient step transforms a potential blessing into an active, unfolding reality. It solidifies the path for the answer to your prayer to fully manifest in your life. Now here's where the cycle becomes truly magnificent. Gratitude. Not just gratitude for the good things you have already seen, or even for the specific act of obedience you've just performed, but that deep, anticipatory gratitude. This is the fuel that multiplies. When you cry out, you open the door. When you obey, you walk through it. But when you give thanks, especially before the full manifestation, you are essentially declaring the victory, affirming God's faithfulness, and creating an atmosphere of abundance that invites more blessings, more miracles. It's a spiritual law. What you magnify with gratitude multiplies in your experience. This isn't just a pleasant emotion, it's an energetic spiritual force that transforms mere reception into ongoing proliferation. Your gratitude acknowledges God's character and His promise, effectively expanding your capacity to hold and attract even greater things. It's the constant affirmation that the river of His grace is not just flowing, but deepening and widening. Consider what happens if any part of this cycle is broken. If you only cry out without learning to listen and obey, your pleas might echo unanswered, not because God didn't hear, but because you missed His specific instructions. If you try to obey and be grateful without the preceding honest cry, you might find your actions lack the authentic passion and dependence that truly move the heart of God. And if you cry out and obey, but neglect that powerful anticipatory gratitude, you might cap the potential for multiplication, limiting the overflow, reducing a continuous river to a series of isolated puddles. Each element feeds and strengthens the others, creating a spiritual momentum that is unstoppable. This is how the Lord causes you to flourish, both you and your children, as Psalm 115:14 promises, not through isolated acts, but through an integrated living relationship. This understanding moves you beyond simply hoping for a blessing to actively becoming a channel, a fertile ground, for continuous divine multiplication. It means you are not merely a recipient, but a co-creator in partnership with God in the unfolding of His glorious plan for your life. Now that we have deeply explored the intricate dance between crying out, obeying His voice, and the multiplying power of gratitude, we arrive at a pivotal moment. This isn't just the conclusion of our discussion, it's the beginning of your personal transformation. What will you do with these keys? Will they remain abstract concepts, inspiring words, or will they become living, breathing practices that redefine the landscape of your life? I challenge you, friend, to move beyond observation and into active participation in your own story of multiplied miracles. This is your invitation to step into the fullness of what God has prepared for you. My challenge to you is simple, yet profound. Apply these 3 steps. Crying out to the Lord with every fiber of your being, obeying His voice in those small, often counterintuitive nudges, and cultivating a spirit of anticipatory gratitude intentionally for the next 21 days. Choose one specific area of your life where you desperately long to see multiplication, a situation where you desire God's miraculous touch to break through. It could be in your finances, your relationships, your health, or your spiritual growth. For these 3 weeks, dedicate yourself to this divine experiment. Start each day with a heartfelt cry, inviting God into that specific area. Throughout your day, pay close attention to the gentle whispers, the quiet inspirations, the small instructions that arise, and commit to acting on them, however insignificant they may seem. And constantly, actively give thanks not just for what you have, but for the multiplication that is already unfolding, for the blessing that is already on its way, as if it has already arrived. This isn't a magical formula. It is a discipline of faith, a sustained act of alignment with God's heart and His principles. It is about rewiring your spiritual responses and preparing your spirit for the overflow. Your story, your personal journey of faith, is a powerful testimony waiting to be lived. What resonated most deeply with you today? Which of these keys felt like a direct message to your spirit, a truth you instinctively know you need to implement more fully? Perhaps it's the raw honesty of genuine crying out, shattering the formality of prayer. Maybe it's the quiet courage required for counterintuitive obedience, trusting God's logic above your own. Or perhaps it's the radical shift of anticipatory gratitude, celebrating victory before the battle is even won. Your experience, your breakthrough, your simple act of taking these principles to heart has the potential to inspire and ignite faith in countless others. We are called to be a light, to share the goodness of God, not just through words, but through lives transformed. Your testimony, whether whispered to a friend or shared openly, is a beacon of hope, reminding others that these principles are not just theory, but a living, breathing reality that changes lives. So if this message has stirred your spirit, if it has ignited a fresh spark of hope and faith within you, I invite you to engage further. Let your engagement be a tangible act of sowing into this community of faith. If this video blessed you, if it offered a new perspective or a renewed sense of purpose, please let us know. Your positive feedback is like a confirmation from God, affirming the work we are doing. More importantly, consider sharing this message with someone you know who needs to hear it, someone yearning for multiplied miracles, someone who might feel stuck or just needs a fresh word of encouragement. Your sharing could be the very vessel God uses to reach a heart in need, to provide the keys to their own breakthrough. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell. By doing so, you ensure you won't miss any future messages that are specifically crafted to equip, empower, and inspire you on your journey of faith, continuously unlocking new dimensions of God's amazing grace. May your life become a vibrant, living testament to the unparalleled power of a sincere cry, of a bold and responsive obedience, and of a gratitude that continually moves the heavens. May the miracles and blessings of God not only manifest but multiply in your journey, surprising you at every turn, exceeding every expectation, and bringing glory to His magnificent name. Walk in this truth, live in this promise, and watch as your world and the world around you is transformed by the unstoppable force of God's abundant favor. Amen.